Hey, welcome everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Ecosystem Aces. I'm Chip Rodgers, Chief Partner Officer at WorkSpan, and we have going to have some fun this morning. I'm really excited to talk to John Coyle. John is a Senior Partner Sales Manager at AWS, and we've had a series of conversations recently with AWS, account managers, partner developed PDMs, partner sales managers to really get an understanding and dive deep into what are the what are the roles that you guys are doing, and what are some of the challenges, what works, what if you're a partner that wants to work with AWS, how should I do that? So we'll dive into all those topics this morning. And John, thanks for joining. Welcome.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity. I feel privileged to be here.
Yeah, it should be fun. I think John is by way of introduction. John is senior partner sales manager, many years at HP, and I think 12 plus years, similar to my length of my time at SAP. But so a lot of great background there. And then John, you were also with gosh, I'm trying to remember, 8x8. Was it? No.
Close. It was virtual PBX, which was a
Okay. Yes.
similar kind of PBX in the cloud
Yeah.
type of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, yeah. Voice over IP.
So that's great. And then most recently with AWS and working with
Yeah.
partners and helping partners find the right solutions and kind of putting. Well, let me ask you, John, tell me about your role and what you're working on these days.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks. So yeah, as a partner sales manager, if some of the listeners aren't familiar with kind of the way the partner network is set up, there's what's called PDMs, partner development managers. Think of those as like the account manager for the individual partners themselves, be it service partners or software partners. So those PDMs help the partner grow up and go up the partner ladder. And there's a whole partner network for that. If you move over into the field, that's where the partner sales managers sit. And there's some partner sales managers that are specifically aligned to partners themselves, but I'm
Mm.
actually what's called a field based, and I sit in the field with the sales reps. I sit back to back with the sales reps. So the sales reps face the customers. I sit back to back to them, and I face the partners. Any partner that would be selling into the customers that I'm specifically aligned with. So for me personally, I'm part of the financial services vertical. And of the financial services, there's 6 sub verticals. One of those is called fintech, and I'm one of 3 partner sales managers that cover the fintech accounts in what's called NAMER, North America.
Yeah.
And most of my it works out. We're not geographic based anymore. 2023 we were. 2024 we moved into this vertical model, so it's all nationwide. But it just so happens for me personally, I sit in the Bay Area of California, and most of the sales reps that I'm aligned with are here, and most of the accounts that I'm aligned with, probably 20 now. Still getting we're at the beginning of the year, so there's always a little bit of movement with
Juggling.
accounts, but
Right.
yeah. But right now it's 20, and it's great because I sit right in the middle of the account reps.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting role. I think of it as sort of like if you're working with a partner as a customer, right? And the account manager, there's a whole you know array of capabilities or solutions that could help come solve a problem for a customer, and
Mhm.
the account manager is really focused on the capabilities that AWS can deliver. Your role is what can partners bring to contribute or complement those capabilities. Do I have that about right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, we should interview you instead of me. That's so. AWS has, I don't even know what we're up to now. 250 plus. services, and there's companies that run their entire business off of AWS and our native services there and products,
Yeah.
but we're not arrogant enough to think that they will solve everything, right? I mean, every company has its own needs, their own products and services that they are selling out to their customers. So our customers come to us with potential needs, and of course, we're going to try to see if we can solve it with our own products or services. But if we can't, that's where the partners can come in. And we have
Hmm.
tens of
Hmm.
thousands of partners in the partner network. And it's a matter of the sales team would come to us, come to me, I'm, as the PSM, then I have a technical counterpart called a PSSA,
Hmm.
um, Partner Sales Solutions Architect. They come to us with that need, and we go off and try to find two or three different partners that could help solve that need at the particular customer. So we figure out what the need is and work backward from there. And we may bring in two or three partners. The customer can interview them, and we figure out, all right, hey, you know what, partner A is the best fit here. Let's do that. And then we help. If there's any uh, we help try to bring the deal together too. So I'll work with a partner directly, and if for some reason there's the cost is off or something like that, there could be some funding that we could help with or the partner could help with to try to make that work for the customer so
Hmm.
that that can get implemented. There may even be two partners, maybe a piece of software, some software or SaaS solution that's going to be put in place, and there might be a service partner that we add in there to help. That could be ProServe from our side. So AWS has their own services, but if that's not going to work, or maybe the customer already has a service partner that's on MSA with them, they've already vetted them and they
Hmm.
already use them. Maybe
Right.
that could be used to help. So there's sometimes it's a combination of partners coming in to help.
Yeah. Well, so that's really interesting. Anyone that's with an ISV, a partner person with an ISV in the fintech space, you better get to know John because he's your person that's going to get you into accounts. Is that about right, John?
Yeah, and I would hesitate to say that I will get you into accounts. It's
Yeah.
there's a lot of partners that are knocking on the doors of these accounts too. Like you mentioned
Hmm.
Robinhood, that's not a small account. That's a very
Hmm.
large company, and there are hundreds, if not 1,000, technical companies that are out there that are knocking on the door of Robinhood to try to sell them their wares, sell them their services or products, etc. When when we work with partners, it it I really want to emphasize a two-way street. It's what we call a co-sell.
Yeah.
And we're, it's we won't just walk a partner into a customer unless there's a very specific need. The
Hmm.
PSSA and myself have been asked to find one, two, or three partners to try to fill that void to fit that need.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we expect the partners to do their work. They're in sales too. They need to go knock on the door
Yep.
and talk with the people at the customer. So we want to see them working in the customer too, and then we'll come in and we help with that co-sell because they're talking with people inside the customer. Customer's massive. They may be talking to a group that maybe AWS is not, right? Or they may be
Right.
talking to what we feel might not be the right group. Let's introduce them to a different group and see if we can kind of accelerate this process. So
Yeah.
that's what co-sell means. But we want to see the partner do their homework and do their work on that.
Yeah. Well, I love that, John. And I think, earlier when we were talking, you were talking about the one team concept. And
Mm,
at SAP, we used to call we termed it the virtual account team, right? Which
mhm,
basically it's
mhm,
like it's going to be account specific or deal specific. You're going to bring the product people, the industry people, the folks that you need, the technical
right.
people that you need. Co-sell is really all about expanding
Mhm,
the the virtual account team to include, if you're the partner, it's bringing in AWS folks to help with the account intelligence and what's
mhm,
happening and who should we be talking to.
mhm.
And if you're AWS, it's bringing the partner in for the same thing. It
Exactly.
sounds like you're, yeah, yeah. So
That's it. That's exactly right. And some of these customers, so in fintech is a little bit unique because a lot of the accounts that I deal with, and this is pervasive throughout the entire fintech industry, most of them are technology companies themselves. They grew up in the cloud. They
Yeah.
started in the SaaS industry, and they have extremely brilliant and bright people that work for them. So they tend to build a lot of their own stuff.
Hmm.
Eh, But but there's that build versus buy decision that has to happen all the time. You could build your own backyard, but it could take 6 months, right? But with a little bit of money, you have the right people come in, and within 2 or 3 weeks, you are using your backyard way before if
Right.
you did it
I would
yourself, right?
to
Or
build it. Yeah.
I shouldn't say
It's a
you, I
great
should say me.
analogy. I got to remember that one. That's a good one.
I went through it, so that's the you want to save money, but at the same time, it's going to take you 6 months. And that's the whole build versus buy scenario that a lot of these fintech companies are going through is I have this need. I've got customers that want my solutions, and we're trying to increase our our revenues for our shareholders. How do we
Right.
get from point A to point B faster? And a lot of
Yeah.
times the best way to do it is to buy. Is to buy that point solution that can be put in that place to fit that need and fill that void and get them farther down the road faster. Right.
Yeah.
And that's where we come in to help with that, to de-risk and accelerate that project.
How do you, it's fantastic. I love this. How do you, so you have a PSSA that's working in the account and they're doing some, whiteboarding architecture, right? Or they're working with what's the business strategy? How are we going to bring technology? And then they come to you and say, hey, you know, what do we have? What from a partner perspective? How do you keep educated? How do you know? Because there are thousands of partners, AWS partners.
Yeah. Man, that is the yeah, that's the hard part right there. We have tens of
Yeah.
thousands of partners in our network, and that 90/10 rule that I was talking about, you know, previous, there's 200 partners. So for me, let me just give an example. There's 200 partners that I worked with last year that were selling into the 20 to 22 accounts that I had last year.
Hmm.
A little bit
Hmm.
reswizzled this year because we're still in well, we're February, beginning of February. We're still swizzling some accounts, but did I work with all 200 of those? No. Really, it's probably 10 to 15% that I really interfaced with because they were proactive and came to me.
Yeah.
And I reach out to all of them. I,
See,
I
I
will
told
say,
you they
I
need to know John.
I reach out to all of them. If they submit an
Right.
opportunity, you're going to hear from me because I
Yeah.
want to know more about what's going on there. But a lot of times, I never hear back. So
Right. Right.
unfortunately, you're going to get pushed off to the side, and I'm going to work with the ones that are proactive. Now, those are the 200 that I ended up working with last year. But if a certain situation comes in, there's ways that we do research internally. We have an internal portal that we use that all the partners are listed in, and there's qualifications and there's competencies. So partners
Hmm.
have certain competencies that they can get that if they're a database competency, HCLS competency, there's some financial services and fintech stuff in there too. So we can kind of filter on that. And now it's it's really up to the partner to make sure that they have all the right competencies. If they want to be chosen to be in the fintech arena or in the HCLS or in automotive or whatever their vertical is, they have to they have to do the homework and they have to put the work into getting those competencies because that's how we filter. If
Hmm.
if you're not on the radar, we're not going to see you. And there's no way we can memorize 10,000, 15,000 partners and what they do. There's no way.
Right.
It's
Right.
just physically, I can see a database and I can run the filters and come up with a list of 22 partners that, okay, well, that's much better than 10,000. And then I have to rely on specialists and internal specialists. That's part of that one team that
Hmm.
surrounds the sales teams. I have to
Yeah.
rely on them and my PSSA that have much bigger brains than mine, technically, and say, okay, well, of these 22 partners that we filtered out, which ones do we think are going to be the best? And part of it is working knowledge. Yeah, I worked with ABC company and I worked with XYZ company. They are fantastic. DEF company, they didn't really follow through. So
Mhm.
they're going to
Mhm.
get pushed off to the side, unfortunately. So the
Yeah.
onus is on the partner too, to do their homework, to make sure that they are going to appear on our radar.
That's great. And so it's you need to, and then I would assume also that as you are going, a new need comes up, you've worked with a partner before,
Mhm.
you knew their capabilities, they delivered, like they're going to be top of mind as
A-
well.
Absolutely. We pulled in a services partner for a very large customer because I knew, and the PSSA that I work with, we knew that that particular services partner could do exactly what that customer wanted. We didn't even
Hmm.
do any filters. We just knew. And
Hmm.
and
Right.
now they didn't have an MSA with this very large customer, so they had to go through a little bit of an accelerated MSA process to get everything signed and all that kind of stuff. But once they were in, they went in within a few weeks, they completed their project and they were done. Fantastic. Something else came in, another need came up. We went back to that same partner and said, "Well, hey, can you do this as well?" "Oh yeah, yeah, we do that all the time." Boom, done. And
Hmm.
then so and there was three projects right in a row that um, we just knew that they could do. Actually, the third one we didn't know they could do, but they said, "Oh yeah, we do this all the time."
Hmm.
So that's how we, as we get to know partners and get to know what they do and who they are. I'll give another example of how we do this. I'm based out of the San Francisco office, and every Tuesday I bring in a partner to provide lunch for the
Hmm.
AWS folks there, and for no other reason than to just meet them, just find out who they are, what they do,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's been a fantastic process. The partners are scrambling to get to these lunches. I may do more per week. It's just that Tuesdays is kind of the bigger back to office day than other days of the
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
So far, I don't know. We'll see how we'll see if the RTO process gets a little tighter as we go on
Extends.
through the
You're
year.
right. Yeah.
But it's that exposure. It's the exposure of the partners getting in front of us so we know who they are. It's a numbers game. It
Yeah.
really is, and it's an exposure game.
Yeah. So that's amazing. I think it's and I love that, ultimately it's all about bringing a better solution to AWS customers,
Hmm.
right? It's like
Hmm.
it's extending beyond. It's looking at all the sort of opportunities for not just AWS to deliver solutions, but bringing the right partner solution as well.
Absolutely. I mean, it really comes down to one of our base leadership principles is customer obsession. And when I've never worked for a company that talks in leadership principles. I've worked for companies that they have mission statements and they have principles,
On a
and
website. Yeah.
they're on the website and they're on the wall in the conference room behind the lobby, and you never hear them again. This is one of the only companies I worked with where it's part of the language, it's part of the daily routine of these
Mm.
principles. And customer
Hmm.
obsession is really key. How do we make the
Hmm.
customer happy, and how do we de-risk and accelerate projects so that this customer can grow? Because really, at the end of the day, we want the customer to grow. If the customer is going to grow, AWS is going to grow with it. And if
Right.
AWS grows and the customer grows, those partners are going to grow as well. It's all kind of a symbiotic relationship there, and I think that's really the key. Sometimes there are things that every company does that's maybe not so much customer focused, reading reports and trying to figure out how to sell more of this particular product. But at the end of the day, we're not going to force a product onto a customer when a partner's product can do it much, much better. It's
Yeah.
just, there are certain times when ours will work fantastic. And that's perfect. But we'll POC it with another partner if they want. Hopefully we win. And if the partner wins, fantastic. We'll work with that.
Yeah. it's all for the good, right? Everybody
Absolutely. Yeah.
ultimately wins. So, John, you mentioned, and you've been talking about the, you're in the financial services and the fintech sub segment, and that's a big transformation that AWS went through last year. I think it was in January. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's all industries, but we're not
Huge.
sure."
Yeah, it's
Um,
huge.
it's a year later, and it seems to be sort of just natural. What's your experience been with the the industry focus?
Yeah, it was truthfully and transparently, it was very crazy the first half of last year. So
Mm,
previous to that, everything was geographic based. There was a west, a central, and an east, and there was little verticals within each of those geographies. Right? They took that and they made that nationwide last year. So there's
mhm,
financial services, but it's across the whole nation. There's no geographies anymore. And
right.
and um and same thing with automotive and semiconductor, HCLS, et cetera, all the different verticals that we've been focusing on. Um, their idea was last year was the figure it out year. This year, 25 is the building year. So now that
Mhm,
we have this in place, the mechanisms are in place. The flywheel is starting to turn, and now we really need to start moving ahead on this. And then in 2026, it should be pretty majorly up and to the right. That's the idea with this kind of a 3 year. I'm not exposing any, I'm not, giving any internal company, information here by any means. It's just that's the way kind of we're seeing it. Last year, there was
mhm,
dust settling from the verticalization even into Q4, and
mhm,
there were still accounts being moved around and people being moved, right? Um, and we tried very hard to have very little account movement this year, and so far that's been that way. There's been a few accounts that's been moved out of the 20 to 25 that I had, and a few moved in, and that's it. Same people. So they've tried very hard to keep it simple, and this year is the pedal has to go to the metal and see where we can go with this. But one thing I will say is with the verticalization, what you do is you get much deeper
I was just gonna
w-
say,
with
yeah.
yeah. So we have a there's the field, and then there's the one team that
Mhm,
surrounds the field with specialists and that type of thing. But there's a whole separate group out here, for lack of a better way of calling it, I'll just call it the business unit. There's a financial business unit, financial services, and these aren't technical people. They're not product people. They're ex
mm,
CFOs and ex CIOs and
mm,
ex, chief product officers and marketing officers and that type of stuff that came from the financial services market, that came from banking, that came from mortgages, that came from the industry. So they know what that industry goes through on a day-to-day basis. Those people are the ones that we bring in. The sales team brings those people in directly to the customer. And
mhm,
during those conversations with the C-suite at the customer, no product is talked about whatsoever. And that's the type of connection that we really wanted to get deep with this whole verticalization. And
yeah,
so that that CFO at, you mentioned Robinhood, but I mean at any company, can be talking to an ex CFO, and they can talk on a level that we wouldn't really be able to.
right,
And
right,
so that really starts to accelerate the conversations, and that's kind of one of the main reasons that we went to the vertical market, just so we could really focus in on the customers.
yeah. No, I love that. I think that's it's amazing to hear the success and how it's still building and all that, but it's and not a surprise. I think to your point, you get when you've got that industry focus, then you're getting very specific around the use cases and the pain
Mhm.
points and the challenges and possible solutions and things like that that all make it very real
Right,
for the customer.
right, right, exactly, and that's the whole point. the whole point. And again, that's just underscores again the customer obsession that we're trying to focus on there.
Yeah. So what's happening? We've just started the 2025 and big plans for this year. Anything without divulging any secrets? Anything that what's the focus? What's your focus going to be?
Well, as we all know, quotas are going to go up, I'm sure. That's just the way. Doesn't matter what company you work for. If you did whatever you did last year, just add another, I don't know,
X
10,
plus,
15, 20, 30%, right?
right?
That's just the way, way of the world. And we're Q I was going to say Q1, but I should probably say, the January, early February, that's always when things change. All of our reporting is being updated. And again, I'm not divulging anything that's not necessarily public information, but every company goes through this, whatever the beginning of their fiscal year is, right? And for us, it's January. Things change, and there is a little bit of that. Some reports I can't get to, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. A lot of account plans being written right now, so it's a lot of prep, building the scaffolding, building the car, and putting some fuel in it. And this is, I think, the year of speed, and then 26 would be the year of growth. Like I said, there was
Growth.
building in
Yeah.
24, you know, speed in 25, and then 26, it's really gonna grow. So for me
Yeah.
personally, um, a lot of the mechanisms and I don't want to use words, but I mean, or weird words, but the flywheels and processes that I put in place last year.
Hmm.
And it's not the same for every PSM, because somebody listening might say, "Well, it's the same processes you've always used, right?" It kind of, but it really depends on the types of accounts too. Insurance works very different from fintech, which works very different
Hmm.
from HCLS and automotive, and different partners sell into those particular industries and markets. So you're interacting in a different way. Um, so I'm hoping that a lot of the stuff that I built last year, because I'm still in financial services, I can use, and I don't have to rebuild stuff. So that's that's probably for the next couple weeks here, is nothing but getting all the reports done and making sure that we know what 2025 is forecasted to look like.
That's awesome. That's awesome. John, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate you spending the time and sharing your insights. Maybe I'll ask you one last question. With your experience, maybe there's a piece of advice or something that you've picked up along the way that has helped you in your role working with partners that you'd want to share with our audience.
Uh, it's funny. The first thing that came to mind is, be responsive, and I say that from
Mm.
both sides. And that seems kind of like that's kind of a letdown of a response. That's have something
It's a good
more
one. That's a good.
more pithy, and more like, oh, that's but you know what? It's at the end of the day, it's who is responding the most to you, who is
Mhm.
responding to your emails, and following through on the action items on the phone calls. Yeah, it's old fashioned. It seems kind of boring, but at the end of the day, that's how business gets done. And I try to be very responsive within the power that I have, within the time that I'm limited to. During the day, I try very hard not to work uh, that late at night, because I
Mm.
don't want to be that type of person. But from a partner standpoint, I would encourage the partners to be responsive. Right? I mean, there's a network that we have, uh, or a system called ACE, and that's where they submit their opportunities. But I can't tell you how many opportunities I uh, I have in my system that they're just stale. Once they got
Mm.
submitted, nothing happened, and
Mm.
I spend an inordinate amount of time chasing partners to find out what's going on with these opportunities.
Mm.
Technically, I shouldn't have to do that. As stuff happens with the customer, those opportunities need to be updated, right?
Right. Right.
So that whole
Well, that's
responsive thing,
actually
if I was to,
our specialty, John. So
there you go. That's exactly right. And that's,
I mean, you get it connected and then, yeah,
that's exactly right. And
yeah.
I can't tell you how many partners aren't connected. They're not integrated into our back end so that when they update
Mhm.
their CRM, it automatically updates ours. So
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
responsive. That's the and responsible. All right, I'll extend that to be responsible. But responsive is really kind of my key term.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is a good one. I know it's simple, but it's being responsive also means being reliable, right? It's
Yeah.
somebody that the partner on the other side can depend on you to be there, to answer questions, to solve problems. So that's a good one, John.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they get credit for these opportunities, and when they launch, that's how they grow up in the partner network. And if I don't get response, sometimes I'll just close lost opportunities. Well, that that
Yeah.
that goes against them, unfortunately. And
Yeah.
so anyway, yeah, there we go. That's my word.
It's a good one. John, thank you for taking the time today and sharing so much. It's been a great conversation. I really enjoyed it, and so thanks for joining.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity, and looking forward to a good year.
Terrific. I'll say thank you all for joining as well. For John Coyle, I'm Chip Rodgers, and we'll close for now and see you next time. Thanks, everybody.